we made a mistake. We relied on one supplier for natural gas, and that was a very strategic blunder.
Definitely another day here in Canada. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, we've got one of the most extreme examples of a Liberal staffer, former Liberal staffer, lying on national television on CTV. We've got a bunch of other stuff going on here. Tim Hodgson over in India. Got some updates from Doug Ford, Mark Miller, a bunch of stuff. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got Pierre Poilievre saying Mark Carney said he doubled the pace of housing construction. It was an illusion. The GTA construction is falling off a cliff. With 100,000 workers could lose their jobs. And what do we see? Worst year on record. GTA home sales hits 45-year low. This is embarrassing. This is awful for Canada. He's also sharing this one. The Liberal housing bubble has burst. Buyers can't afford to buy, sellers can't afford to sell, and builders can't afford to build. This is the ultimate trifecta here. As we see new home sales from 2024 to 25, 45% down in the GTA. Greater Golden Horseshoe, down 52%. Vancouver, down 56%. What do we see in the comments here? Sigh. Somebody posting a graphic. Obviously, we've got housing here in provincial. I knew this was going to be in here. When it comes down to it, it's immigration. There's too many people coming in. That affects houses. I'm sure somebody has commented that in here. Federal government immigration. There it is. Conservatives know what's going on. Liberals don't seem to understand that when you bring in 2 million people per year and you're only building 250,000 houses, you get a housing crisis. Moving ahead, we've got Ottawa and Seoul agreeing to work on bringing South Korean auto sector manufacturing to Canada. What does this mean? Because, well, they're already here. We have Hyundai already. Well, this is more talk about the submarines. They want us to buy their submarines for billions of dollars, and in exchange here, what they're talking about is more electric vehicles, battery manufacturing, and hydrogen-powered vehicles. Yeah, this is not going to work out. I mean, as it says, electric vehicle manufacturing opportunities. What opportunities? Canadians aren't buying these vehicles. The demand for them is dropping. It's not increasing. And not to mention, a battery supply chain, same thing. If there isn't demand for the vehicles, there isn't demand for these batteries. So we're talking about what? Cooperation on hydrogen-powered commercial vehicles and a stable hydrogen production and supply chain. This will turn out to be another Liberal failure is what this is. Moving on here, Doug Ford once again has joined Team Carney.
As President Trump continues to threaten workers here in Ontario with tariffs, economic uncertainty, our government is delivering on our plan to protect Ontario. And I can tell you, folks, we don't have to take a backseat to anyone. We sure the heck don't have to take a backseat to President Trump. It's a plan to build a provincial economy that is more competitive, more resilient, and more self-reliant, so we can stand up to tariffs, economic uncertainty, and anything else that comes our way.
He knows full well that isn't true. So what's going on here? He's best friends with Chrystia Freeland. Now he's back on Team Carney. Doug Ford is an opportunist. He's not really a conservative. He's just an opportunist. He just goes where the money is, the way he can keep himself in power. Here we have him pushing back against Donald Trump once again. We already know how this ends. What exactly is Doug Ford doing? Is he in on Carney's scheme to destroy our country? Ford is Carney's puppet. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Election preparations just like last time. Yeah, it just fear-mongering, get Donald Trump all riled up if it isn't planned. I'm sure Dougie has a lot of skeletons in his closet. I would suspect so. And while we're talking about Liberals, listen to what Mark Miller has to say here to this question and his answer.
He says that Carney walked back his Davos comments. How do you negotiate with a party that seems to have conversations and takeaways so different from our Prime Minister? He said he didn't walk back those comments.
Well, I think you heard the Prime Minister. I'm a little more concerned about the Prime Minister's preference for pineapple pizza.
That's not a real answer. Pineapple on pizza, yeah, I get it. Funny joke. But she asked you a real question about walking back comments, and he talks about pineapple on pizza. This here sums up the Liberal government and how serious they are about governing our country. He's a coward, just like Governor Carney. Yeah, moving ahead, this idea is going around here. Is Donald Trump helping Carney win a big majority? Asking for a friend. This is an article in the Winnipeg Sun. I brought this up over a year ago before the election. Now we're getting people asking this question. It starts off, I'm not a conspiracy person. I deal in facts, incentives, and outcomes, but every now and again, the timing of events becomes so convenient that ignoring it would be irresponsible. Exactly. There's too much. There's too many things that line up there. Yesterday, I spoke with two people about escalating battle between President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Mark Carney. This morning, I had the same conversation with someone else. 3 different people, 3 different backgrounds, each asked the same questions, unprompted. Do you think this is on purpose? That question is coming out of thin air. Rumors are growing that Mark Carney wants a majority and is considering calling an election either days after the NDP leadership race or possibly possibly even before it concludes. That would be so nasty if he did that. He would completely hinder them, and that would be good for him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does that, because the Liberal Party has proven themselves to not be an honorable group of people. Says if that happens, this would land squarely in the middle of escalating rhetoric from the United States. Trump has suddenly turned up the volume. We know 100% tariff threat. Carney may believe that positioning Canada as less reliant on the United States is good politics. He may genuinely dislike Trump. He may even believe Canada should chart a different course, but belief does not override reality. Geography still matters, markets still matter, jobs still matter. Meanwhile, Trump's attacks hand Carney exactly what he needs: an external villain, a rallying cry, a justification for an early election. If Canadians soak it up, the Liberals could sweep much of Eastern Canada and secure a majority. That's what he's doing here. Now, the question is Donald Trump doing it with him? Or is he just playing hardball for Kuzma and negotiating all that? We've got Doug Ford being asked on Pierre Poilievre's leadership review, which will be happening soon.
Mr. Poilievre needs to get at his leadership review. And in your assessment, is he the national leader that Conservatives need right now?
Well, I'm really focused on Ontario. We're having our convention the same time they are. So I'm focusing on this weekend, getting the message out to our progressive Conservative base in Ontario and telling them the plan, how we're going to protect themselves, protect the jobs in their communities. That's what I'm going to be focused on. Good luck at the federal Conservative convention, but that's going to be up to them to determine if they want to move forward with Pierre Poilievre.
Doug Ford doing his thing. He won't support Pierre Poilievre. This guy's a snake. He's an opportunist that only cares about himself. As FlexJS saying, he's just such a POS, he's not a conservative. No, he's not. Ford is a Liberal stooge. Vote New Blue in Ontario. Yeah. They've got a compromising video of Doug Ford somewhere. Yeah, maybe they do. Meanwhile, in Surrey, with all this talk of extortion... Okay, before I get in trouble for putting this on here and YouTube thinking this is real. Okay, this is so dumb. Biggest laughing stock. Jumping over to CTV here, they got a panel talking about values that are important to the parties. And we've got Sebastian first, and afterwards, Sharon Kerr says the most ridiculous thing I've heard all week.
And pundits can guess, Sebastian, but you're a conservative. You tell me, like, what is important to you as you look ahead at that vote? What do you think your fellow party members will be thinking about when they cast their ballot?
I think they'll be thinking about the great gains that we are still to make, that Mr. Poilievre has already made in the last election and that we're looking forward to in the next one. I think they'll look at the recently released, for example, fundraising numbers, where Conservatives continue to blow out the Liberals out of the water when it comes to raising money and making sure that our machine is ready. And I think they'll look to Mr. Poilievre's vision for the country, his message of hope to Canadians, the unity that he will present around especially domestic issues that Mr. Carney is so frequently not present for and doesn't seem to completely understand or be in tune with the average Canadian. So I look forward to seeing Mr. Poilievre's speech. I look forward to seeing the message he charts across, and I know that my fellow delegates will be very eager and keen to cast their ballots in favor for him.
Yeah, some of that fundraising data just came out. Both the Conservative and Liberal parties had record years. The Conservatives raised $48 million last year. Sharon, the Liberals raised $29 million. What does that tell you as you look ahead to the vote, and also about the level of political engagement right now?
Listen, I think that the amount of money they've raised is actually impressive. Like, no one can say that that's not a number that we should actually be paying attention to. But I think what folks are going to be looking at is his tone, his tenor. What is he saying? Generally speaking, in the history of campaigns, Liberals have always campaigned kind of based on hope, whereas people like Pierre Poilievre, and not the Conservative Party, but people like Pierre Poilievre campaign on fear. And I think we are going to see some of that come out of what he says, what he does. But again, we're looking.
Mark Carney literally opens up every press conference or says in every single event, the world is more dangerous and divided. There's been a rupture. His whole campaign was on fear. She is such a chronic liar. What they're doing here is they're trying to flip it because they know that Poilievre ran on hope and Carney ran on fear. And they're just trying to switch this up. You can't just come on CTV and say this stuff and be true. This is more lying.
The world is becoming a more dangerous and divided place. New technologies have brought distant threats to our door. Power has become multipolar. Authoritarianism is resurgent.
To the struggling single mother who worries how she will feed her kids, hope is on the way.
Rules-based global order is under threat in a time when technological change is Accelerating.
To the 35-year-old, still living in mom's basement, but dreaming of owning his own place and starting a family. Change is on the way.
In a time when the Liberals are polling higher than the Conservatives are, and what he says there is going to matter. He's definitely brought in a large number of new voters, but not enough to sway people that are center, more left-swinging towards his base. So I think we're going to still see a very interesting, fearful type of message. Liberals are bad. Donald Trump is doing this. Donald Trump is doing that. But how is he?
Pierre Poilievre doesn't talk about Donald Trump. That's rhetoric from Mark Carney. Donald Trump doing this, Donald Trump doing that. He just had a full speech at Davos attacking Donald Trump. Unfortunately, this is what people watch. They see this garbage and think it's true. She's a chronic liar.
The biggest risk we have to this economy is Donald Trump, that are causing maximum damage in the United States with minimum impact here.
Why are you being so reticent to talk about that?
Because I'm a good negotiator.
To the seniors choosing between eating and heating, and to all those who wonder what happened to the country that they knew and love. Change and hope are both on the way.
Going to unite everyone together. I think unity is the one thing that I think he lacks. So I think that's what we're going to want to wait and see.
That old relationship is over, unfortunately. It never 51, never 51. It is a tragedy.
I think that the reason why we've attracted these record-breaking crowds is people have hope again. People have hope. The young people have hope.
But it's the new reality. We are the best! And we're responding. We are responding with purpose and with force.
Let me ask you about that, because we've talked a bit about this actually on both on radio and on TV, but there's a whole bunch of polling out. We spoke to Nick Nanos on the show last night. Leger today has one poll that most significantly shows the Liberals ahead of the Conservatives, but every other poll right now shows a very interesting phenomenon in that Mark Carney's personal numbers, the Prime Minister's personal numbers, far exceed Mr. Poilievre, Pierre Poilievre's. But
the reason why the Leger poll is higher is because it said Mark Carney's Liberal Party, where all the other ones just said Liberal Party. When they stick the name in front, they get more support on it because people don't know who Carney is.
But the parties are actually within, the margin of error of each other in polling. How do you explain that, and what are the implications for Mr. Poilievre there, Jamie?
I think part of it, to add another poll to that mix, is when you look at what David Coletto's numbers had to say in terms of the enthusiasm, let's take a step back and remember that the people who are going to be voting in this review process are Conservative Party members who are elected as delegates in their electoral district association and are going to Calgary for this convention. And so I think when you look at the level of enthusiasm that Pierre has brought into the party and how that's manifested itself with those kind of 41% performance and really impressive numbers on the machine stuff that my co-panelist was just talking about, that machine is what's going to be taking a vote in Calgary. And so I think he's going to pass through this convention with flying colors. And I think there's no one actively organizing against Pierre. That's just a fact. And so I think he will be given a chance to lead the party into the next election, whenever that's be. If the Liberals are going to orchestrate something this spring or beyond, all the politics as usual.
Yeah, there's an election coming here in the next 5 or 6 months. Nobody aside from Doug Ford wants the job right now. There's no one gunning for Pierre. Doug Ford refusing to give his support over to Pierre. The question is, what will the number be? And we'll find out that soon. Next up, we got Tim Hodgson posting this. They're talking about more trade with India now. And then, as you'll see in this video, net zero. We have to pay close attention to what they're putting out here, where they're going to be trying to push our country.
India is becoming one of the world's most important energy markets, with demand in conventional and clean energy projected to grow more than China and all of Southeast Asia combined in the next decade. That surge in demand, coupled with Canada's ambition to be a clean and conventional energy superpower, makes it clear we need to be engaging with the Indian market now. That's why this week I'm traveling to Goa and Delhi to carry forward the Prime Minister's commitment to double Canada's non-US exports, including energy and natural resources.
So what I think he's doing here is he's trying to boost Mark Carney's Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1. He wants to get more funds coming into that and pumping it up. And they need more money from India, more product, or simply just supporting the carbon credit market in Canada. It's going to be one of those two things or both of them.
That's the money line, the liquefied gas going into the FSTs.
That is not only conventional energy, but a chance to sell more clean energy and critical minerals to fuel the energy transition in India. During the trip, I'll be meeting with government counterparts and industry stakeholders at India Energy Week And together with Canadian businesses and provincial partners, we'll lay the groundwork for new bilateral trade and investment. Because in a world of rising instability and trade weaponization, Canada hasn't forgotten one of the most important commodities of all: trust.
Trust, that's right, folks. Coming from the government with the Prime Minister having the most conflicts of interest in Canadian history, probably more than all other Prime Ministers combined, and he says trust. That's what we need to have. Okay.
So by the time we leave India, one message will be unmistakably clear. Whether it's our world-class low-carbon energy from Western Canada.
So there it is, and they mentioned LNG in there. The next one here, uranium, Saskatchewan.
Uranium from Saskatchewan, or sustainably produced critical minerals from across the country. Canada can reliably power India's growth for decades to come.
So in reality, yeah, we should be selling LNG to India. I think they're doing it for another reason. I mean, he mentioned low carbon, so it's specifically KSI Lissam's LNG. There's something bigger going on here. I'm still putting together some pieces because I have a feeling I know how some of these pieces fit together even more so than what we know now. But in a nutshell, this is all net zero. This is to boost all their stuff. What's he invested in? We don't know. I keep asking, they won't tell me. Seems corrupt not knowing what our energy minister's invested in. Considering his extensive background in energy, oil and gas, being good friends with Mark Carney, we don't get to know what he's invested in. I'm guessing he's got a crap ton of money in Brookfield.
Canada used to provide 98% of its energy to one customer. We are committed to diversifying our supply. We see the opportunity to work with India, as was said, to the fastest growing demand for energy in the world will be in India, whether it's LNG, LPG, uranium, where we have the world's largest supplies of uranium. We made a mistake. We relied on one supplier for natural gas, and that was a very strategic blunder. We can never let that happen again. We need to diversify our supply.
Then why is the government allowing American billionaires and NGOs to fund coastal First Nations that are blocking pipelines from Alberta to BC's coast, where we'd be able to get more of our supply to Asia?